Good morning and welcome to Live with Chris, an interview podcast where we can learn and grow together. I am your host, Chris Oviedo, and I want to thank you for staying with me today. Happy Monday, everybody. Monday after spring forward. I know that can be a little difficult, a little challenging. But if we focus on the good things, there's two really great things happening today, right? We have longer days, and I personally love that. I love that we won't have a sunset before 7 p.m. until I think it's September. So I'm really excited about that. And then the other thing is today, we had snow this past Saturday, but today is going to get up to like the 70s. So spring's coming, the weather is getting better. The days are longer, so I think there's a lot of pluses. There's a lot of really positivity, a lot of energy coming into our community here in Howard County. And speaking of growing together, today we're going to focus on farming. And a simple and cold definition of farming is that it is the activity or business of growing crops and raising livestock. And I like to expand a little bit on that concept and really look at it from the lens that acknowledges that this simple, and I say it in quotations, air quotations, in case you're only listening to this show today, right? But the simple process is the backbone of the economy. It's really what sustains us on a physical level with the production of food. It is also medicine for our mind and for our soul. It is exercise, it is connection, it is community, it is so much more. And to really deepen our ideas around farming and to learn about efforts and programs available here locally, right, that you can participate on, I have the Environmental Health and Safety Supervisor at HEC, Bob Marietta, with me this morning. And we also have Howard County Sustainability Projects Manager, James Soler. And I want to thank you both for being with me here this morning. And James, I want to start a conversation with you. I want to get your thoughts on farming. This is what you do day in, day out. This is your life, right? So let's start with thinking about the importance of local farming and how it affects our community. Thank you for joining me and welcome you both.
Sure. Thanks for
Good to be
having
here.
me. As far as local farming, I think all of us know one of the biggest importance that we see daily is when we drive through the rural parts of Howard County, the open space. Not only is that open space important for our natural resources, but it's pleasant for us all to have that open space to see when we're driving through. But even more importantly is our security. So having local food here accessible and especially during the pandemic, we saw where the importance of food and having it locally sourced is really important for not just Howard County but Maryland and our country. Also, the by sourcing our food locally, we have much less travel for our food coming to us. Therefore, the quality is much better as well. So, as we know right now, food, especially this time of year, we're getting it regionally, we're getting it from overseas because of the climate, and we do get some good. We're thankful we have great transportation to get it here in a timely manner, so it is fresh and tastes good. But there's nothing better than something that is locally grown because it comes. It's usually picked right at the right time, so it doesn't have to be picked earlier. So it has a lot of benefits. Having local farming.
In times of war, I was reading, and the war is, in I think, in everybody's mind with everything that's happening in Ukraine and Russia and other places in the world. And as a strategy, right, many times they will bomb farming, they will bomb crops because they understand the importance, during a war, during an invasion of farming and how sustaining the people and the access, like as you were speaking of, to food, right, to food right there, it's crucial um for everybody in a community. So we kind of take it for granted, and I think that through technology, many times, and especially I think that younger generations have been a little separated maybe from where our food comes from, right? We're just so used to going to the supermarkets and grabbing things from there. We think that's where food comes from, that it's important to really go back and really pay attention to our local farms, really pay attention to our earth and so many other levels, and just as you said, elevate it and really understand it and really reconnect with it and appreciate it because it is what sustains us. When we're speaking local farming, let's define local, right? Because that's a question that has come up in forums and in conversations. Like, to be local, does it mean Howard County? Does it mean that it needs to be grown in Howard County? Are we talking Maryland? Are we talking, the East Coast? Like, in the US, well, how do we define local? When we hear the word local in farming, what are we talking about?
So it's up for debate a lot of times. So local means really local hasn't been defined, except for in 2008, the Food Conservation and Energy Act. They defined it as 400 miles from your area. Um, but local means different things for many different people. So it really is something that it hasn't been really well defined for us in Howard County, and for our programs, we look at local as Maryland and surrounding uh, states is typically how we're looking at local, which probably is about 400 miles. What we're looking at, or less.
But just by practice, we're falling into that definition that was put up. Um, Bob, we have brought a garden to HCC, right? I know you are very connected. I know you understand. I know that all of the efforts that you do here at HCC are exactly about that, are about creating opportunities and reconnecting and making sure that not only our students, but our staff and everybody who's here at HCC um, pays attention to our planet in many different ways. Talk to us a little bit about the importance of providing the opportunity to our students, to our staff. What's the goal of having a garden here at HEC?
Well, we know that students do better in school if they're healthier. And if they eat fresh food, they're going to be healthier. And James actually was a big part of us establishing our food pantry garden here on campus. And so we appreciate his efforts on working with us with that. And so we're able to provide fresh food and instructions on how to prepare that food to our students that are currently living in areas where fresh food is not available, or maybe they can't afford the fresh food that is available. So we can provide that to them in our food pantry. And we have a number of different gardens going on the campus. We have the food pantry garden, and we have an incredible edible garden where anybody can just stop by at any time and pick what they want to eat. And that's run by the volunteer groups here on campus. And then our culinary programs grow their own fresh herbs and things and other gardens here on campus as part of their educational program.
Mm. How wonderful is that? You talked about so many things, and we could have full conversations just on that, right? But one of the things that I do want to mention is this is a wonderful country, and you talked about health, you talked about affordability, and many times I know that buying a bag of chips, like tortilla chips or potato chips, we look at the price tag and we compare it to fresh fruits, and we're like, oh man, it's a big difference right there on that price, right? So affordability is really important, and that's where local farming can actually help us because James talked about that process of importing, having to cut it early. The freshness of the fruits, even, and then what it takes, the time that it takes, and the cost that it takes to bring it here. James, can you help us just kind of like take an inside look of how local farms support our health and also our finances?
So really, with Howard County, if you're going to buy from Howard County or Maryland farms, unless you go on the Eastern Shore, we're looking at small to mid-size vegetable producers. So when you go to a farmer's market, you have to keep in mind, typically you are going to spend more money than what you would at the grocery store. It just comes down to economy of scale. If these large producers, which we do have some down on the Eastern Shore of Maryland, but locally in Howard County and these small mid-size, they can't compete with that with those markets just because their labors it costs them a lot more to produce it. And especially a year like this, we're going to see our food increase in price. I think significantly for really fuel, fertilizer, all those prices have gone up, and actually were going up prior to the conflicts that we see in Ukraine. That now I think we're going to see even higher prices. One thing we're doing here in the county is we have a roving radish marketplace, which we do sell local produce and proteins, and we do subsidize them for those in need. It's part of our healthy food access programming. So we see that need, and there's even more people now that will qualify for that 50% off, which will allow them to buy some local stuff at a reasonable price.
And how important it is to understand that, right? But Bob, you and I have talked about before of, maybe in the short term you're spending more, but in the long run, the benefits of supporting local farming will really come back to our community in so many other ways. Can you maybe remind us of why it is important that we continue to support local farms, even though it might mean spending a little more money today than it would be buying from, the supermarket?
Well, first, I always refer people to the taste. You can't beat the fresh vegetables that were yesterday were growing in the ground, and today they're on your plate, and they just taste so much better, and they're so much more nutritious for you than produce that's been picked earlier and transported. And also, that's the transportation is a large factor in pollution. If it has to go into a truck or train or a plane even and be shipped to your locality, that's going to produce a lot of carbon in the atmosphere and other pollutants that are going to be added to our environment. So the more local you can stay, the better you are for the environment. And of course, for your own body, it's more nutritious to eat locally.
So there are many benefits of buying local. One of the programs that you just mentioned, James, is the Robin Radish, and I want you to tell us a little more about that. Remind us a little more about what the Robin Radish is, how it supports our farmers, and also I know you talked about the financial support that it gives the residents, but I know there's more benefits than just that financial one. That it's really really important.
Sure. So the roving radish is really become a platform for a lot of programs here in the county. It was started in 2014. The idea behind it was to promote healthy eating, support local farms, and also connect our community. So it does that, and it then and still now by making meal kits that we source from local farms. So the nice thing is we create a market for our Howard County and local farms that they can depend on and purchase those produce from them. We chop, measure, and make the meal kits easy so and affordable for the community. They're this year they're going to be $40, and it's two dinners for a family of four. Um, and it really makes it easy for a family to get back to cooking, learn how to cook, experience different vegetables. So that's one facet of our program, and it's been very beneficial for farmers because we send out, have our recipes planned for the year. They've gotten a list of all the produce and the estimated quantities we need, so they can kind of plan. And we always tell the farms that we deal with, if you can sell it retail because that's where they make their money. That's where they get a much higher margin. We buy between retail and wholesale, so we're good. We're a good backup plan for them, and it allows our farmers to grow more, so they can say, "Oh, well, I know I can sell this much retail, but I also know the roving radish can buy some, so I'm going to take a gamble, and a gamble that I can afford to take because I know I have a buyer for it." So it's been very, very beneficial for farms. And then we started the roving radish marketplace, part of the healthy food access program this past year. That was developed through some of our COVID programs that we had to support people that were being affected by COVID, and that has a couple elements. One was the roving radish marketplace, which we talked about, which anyone can buy local produce from, but those that qualify can buy it for 50% off. It also has an element where we deliver to 20 families that um, are supported sometimes by our food banks, but maybe need a little extra assistance and have food access issues. So they might not have a car, they might only have one car, and someone works during the day, and they might be in Western Howard County where they don't have as much access to say the food banks and resources here in Columbia. So we deliver right now to 20 families a week and make essential boxes, which has milk, eggs, produce, vegetables. And then the last bit is we have a great relationship with the food bank. So we've been working with the food bank to deliver to families that have access issues. Some older folks, some families. So those are usually between 4 to 10 people a week that we deliver to, as well as we're on call for emergency deliveries for a family that finds themselves without food at all and need something immediately. So it's a lot. That's part of that program, but it's a lot to it.
There is a lot to it, and it to me it brings hope, right? And I know that Bob, during the COVID, during the pandemic, when we were closed and our students couldn't access the pantry, I know that we had a great relationship going with the Roving Radish, and I would love for you to just help our listeners and our viewers get an idea of how impactful a program like the Roving Radish has been for our students here at HCC.
Well, it's when you're hungry, it's very hard to concentrate and it's hard to study. And studies show that there's a direct correlation between having a well balanced diet and how well you do in school. So the college thinks it's a direct correlation. And so getting our students the food that they need to stay healthy and to do well in school is part of our educational program for our students. And we're fortunate in Howard County that we have programs like the Roving Radish and the Sustainability Office for the county and the food banks that all collaborate together. And so we share the bounty that we all have to make sure that those that don't have those resources can still get the healthy food that they need so that they can continue and help support other people in the county. So it's all a teamwork effort. And so when we have extra in our food pantry, it's taken to the food bank and vice versa, so that each bank, each program supports the other programs. And the Roving Radish has the ability of being able to reach out and go to places where people are stranded without food resources. And so it's an invaluable part of this partnership we have with providing food in Howard County.
So, James, we've talked about the Roving Radish, but I know that that's not the only program, right? And that's not the only initiative that the county is working on and has available for everybody. I know that you guys focus on businesses, on farms, on residents. So, tell us a little more about some of the other programs that the county has available for everybody out there.
So I primarily handle agricultural and food initiative programs. So we talked about the Roving Radish Marketplace. One thing I should mention too is we did support the food bank. I believe you still probably can get, or this upcoming season can get Roving Radish meal kits right there at the community college. I believe we're going to try to do that again with the food bank. So we have a great partnership with the community college and are thankful for that. Um, as far as other resources, we also have a program called HOCO Harvest, which is to increase harvesting a deer. And then it's a basic program similar to many that are out in the state that sometimes run out of funding. And simply a hunter that can donate the deer to a processor. The county pays for it, and we take the deer meat to several local food banks, including the community college, I believe, was a recipient
Yeah.
of some of that meat, which with recipes is a great lean protein, and the deer, as we all know, are plentiful here in Howard County and really hurt the economy because of the farmers. There's a safety issue because of cars and driving and hitting the deer, but there's also a natural resources. It's really decimating the undergrowth of our forests, and it's really a problem here, especially in Howard County. We also have the a website which is hocofarms.com, and that's a website that county residents can get on and locate farms and the products they have. So you can hit chicken and see what farmers we have are raising local chicken, beef, vegetables, farm stands. Really has a whole list of items that we have here. Um, we also have Farm Academy that we do. That primarily is it does tours of farms, which we used to do in the beginning of it. We haven't with COVID, but also has a big presence at the Howard County Fair. So if any residents go to the Howard County Fair, it's a fun self-guided tour you can take, which takes you through the animal barns and the ag barns, so that you can learn a little bit about our agriculture in here in Howard County. And then on your way out, you come back to the Farm Academy stand, and we give you a prize. So those are just a few of our programs that we run countywide. To support ag and just really educate the community about agriculture.
I also do want to highlight the program where we're encouraging restaurants, right? Local restaurants to work with farms. Could you tell us more about that? Because I think and I feel is so important because we get the benefits as Bob was saying, right, of the fresh produce, right? That taste. And I would love for people when they go out to eat to be mindful of the taste of the food and how maybe it's different, right? And the texture even when you're buying from a restaurant that is buying local and supporting our local economy rather than buying from other restaurants that may not be on board with that initiative yet. So and I also want to encourage all business owners, right, all restaurant owners out there to maybe start doing a little bit of that. Maybe have a couple of items. Maybe we it's tough. Economy is tough right now, and you're saying, well, we just came out of COVID, money is a little tight still for a business. We talked about, that you might have to spend a little more upfront when you're buying local. But maybe there's a couple dishes that you can start doing in your menu. You can start small and we can all support each other. So James, tell us a little bit about that and how it works and maybe benefits that our restaurant owners should start considering and why they should start joining this program.
Sure. So the program that you're referring to called HOCO Fresh was created in 2018, and the idea is it was a very simple program where restaurants, when they purchased X amount of dollars from farms, they would submit the receipts, and there was dollar amounts that they could hit to get certified as HOCO Fresh. That program with COVID really took a back burner, and we're still encouraging restaurants to purchase from our local farms, but really they're at two disadvantages. You mentioned the economy and how hard it hit some of our restaurants. With that being said, there are some restaurants here locally that do buy fresh produce from farms. One that has done an outstanding job would be the Elkridge Furnace Inn. They're they they have partnered with many local farms and have been consistent even throughout the pandemic. They've been fortunate to be able to do that. A lot of farms or a lot of restaurants, while it would be more money, they couldn't even source it during the pandemic from our local farms because our community, which is great, was buying the majority of our Howard County produce that was available in meats and protein. So there was a real shortage of local produce. And you have to keep in mind as far as produce growers in Howard County, there's probably like six of substantial, or even I wouldn't even call it substantial, but that are selling directly to the public. So there's not a huge market there, and it can be saturated pretty quick. So that being said, we want to still encourage restaurants to buy as much as they can locally. But the HOCO Fresh program, we're kind of looking to rebrand it as as really the overseeing of all promotion of local produce. So the county executive's office throughout the pandemic under the HOCO Fresh logo would do social media posts highlighting different farms and how you could buy their products from, whether it be online or pickup. So we kind of have rebranded that program, and I think we're looking to the future to even combine our website under that HOCO Fresh umbrella, so that all our social media, all our promotions would go under that, because it is a catchy logo. It's a nice logo, and it's a catchy phrase to say you're buying HOCO Fresh, and we want to make sure that residents know you can be HOCO Fresh too. It just doesn't have to be a restaurant.
And I appreciate that you're making the distinction and that you guys are looking at that and helping us as consumers also understand that we can be part of that as well. And I know that a lot of residents here in Howard County are very active, and especially now, as I said at the beginning, longer days, warmer temperatures. Everybody's starting to think, okay, what can I do at home, right? I want to grow my own veggies. I want to grow my own fruits, and there's opportunities around the county to do that, and maybe at your home also people get really creative when they want to do it. Even if they live in a small space in a small apartment, they still find ways. I'm thinking of the tomatoes specifically right now. That's one of the things that's very popular. So I'd love for both of you guys, we can start with James and then with Bob. Give our residents ideas, give our residents tips, things that they can do at home, that they should maybe consider, keep in mind as they are trying to grow their own veggies, fruits, plants at home this spring season. So, James, let's start with you and then we'll go with Bob.
Sure. So I mean, I would recommend there's a lot of plants that do well in containers. If you have a small area, raised beds are always very popular just because they're easier to manage. But in containers, you can grow quite a bit of stuff. Tomatoes, you can grow greens, leafy greens. There's a lot of things you can do in containers that people don't realize. There even strawberries. There's creative ways of growing them. Maryland Extension, it does have, I believe, on their website different resources on how to grow. Another thing that I would keep in mind is as a growing season starts, and you can plant, you can start seedlings inside earlier. But if you're looking for starter plants, we have some great farms that actually grow the starter plants and are a great resource to tell you how to plant them. So we have Sharps Farm that does them, does have a lot of starter plants. TLV Farm, Frank's Produce, they have quite a bit of plants available, as well as you've got local hardware stores like Clark's and Kendall's that carry a lot of starters, and Southern States or Farm and Home that I think are great resources that I would tell people, hey, talk to these farmers. They'll give you a lot of advice on how to start your own garden depending on what kind of area you have.
Bob, what would you
I
like
would
to add
echo
to that?
that. Yeah, yeah. The containers and the raised beds are very easy for homeowners that don't have a lot of property to take advantage of the fresh fruits and the fresh vegetables. They allow you also to control the insects and uh, protect yourself from the deer without having to use a lot of insecticides and other poisons, simply by covering the plants. And this can also extend the season so that you can start growing earlier in the spring and continue later in the fall. And so the master gardeners, as James said, promoted by the Extension Service, have an awful lot of information that they can give you, and they put on workshops all the time on how to grow your small gardens and things. And this year, when each of the villages in Columbia get started, in addition to giving away and selling native plants, they're all going to be promoting vegetables. And so you can pick up seedlings and stuff at your local village events.
The message that I'm taking with me today from our conversation is that, farming happens in many ways. It can even happen at your home and, depending on the land that you have, small scale and a little bigger scale, and you don't have to do it alone. We want to support each other. We need to understand that local farming supports our economy and we can support it as well. If you're a restaurant, if you're a HOCA resident, if you're a student, there's programs out there. So this is really a community that we can all be part of in many different ways. So explore farming here in Howard County. Look at it, take a look and see what's available. Continue diving into this conversation and finding out what's available. Bob, let's tell our students where they can connect with you and resources that are sustainable here at Howard Community College, and remind them where they can go and find more information as well.
Okay. We always say you can go on the college's website and go to howardcc.edu/green and find information about our programs here on campus. There's also the Wellness Center, which runs our food pantry, and the college's culinary program has a lot of things about menus and other things that you might want to take advantage of. And also, we refer people to the Live Green, the website for the Howard County Sustainability Office, and connect all those opportunities that are there.
And James, where can our residents go and connect with the different resources, find out more about all of these initiatives that we barely touched on today, maybe get involved with the Robin Radish and all of these other programs that are available to everyone?
Yeah, so Bob mentioned the Live Green Howard website. That has some good resources, as well as the hocofarms.com website, which hopefully will be going through a revitalization here in July, as well as the Roving Radish website, rovingradish.com. And I would also mention that really the best way to support our local farms here is to purchase from them, and whether that's through the Roving Radish or farmers markets, which we have a few here in Howard County, as well as there are some farms and farm stores like Frank's Produce. Breezy Willow has a farm store, TLV, Mary's Land Farm, Sharps, Larry's Land. There's a lot of farm opportunities to buy local produce here, and that really is the best way to support our farms.
Many ways to support our farms. I know in a personal level, my daughter has actually volunteered many times at some of these farms. So there's just so many things, right? There's just so many ways. As I said, it's a really key element of our community. So get involved. Get involved. Maybe you've never thought about farming. Maybe this is something that's completely out there for you. Maybe you're like, every time I try to grow a plant, that would be me in my home. It takes me longer to buy it than it takes for it to die when it comes to my hands, right? Maybe you're like me in that sense. Don't be discouraged by that. I've learned so much through these conversations with Bob, and I've learned, as James and Bob reminded us today, that we are not alone, that it is a community effort. And maybe you're not the one who needs to care for the plants, but there's many other ways, and you can support local farming. So get involved, go to the websites, find out more information. Bob and James, thank you so much for the information. Thank you so much for making us aware and making us be part, and making these programs available to all of us, and making us part of them, and making sure that everybody has access to food here in Howard County. Everybody have a wonderful day. Please share this information. Give us a comment, give us a like. And until next time, I am Cris Oviedo.